Close your eyes for a moment and imagine standing inside a silent refectory in Milan. The air is still. The walls hold centuries of breath, and before you stretches a frozen instant in time. 13 men, one broken loaf of bread, a single sentence just spoken that fractures the room. One of you will betray me. This is not just a painting. It is a psychological explosion captured in pigment. And what if I told you that beneath the surface of this sacred image, there may be something deliberately hidden, not metaphorically hidden, not symbolically hinted, but structurally embedded, waiting centuries for the right eyes and the right technology to uncover it? Because sometimes the greatest secrets are not buried in darkness, they are placed directly in the light. And for over 500 years, one mural has been silently asking a question humanity may only now be ready to answer. In the convent of Santa Maria delle Grazie in Milan, inside a room meant for contemplation and silence, Leonardo da Vinci painted what would become one of the most analyzed works in history, The Last Supper. At first glance, it appears to be a faithful representation of a biblical moment. Christ at the center, the apostles reacting in shock, hands gesturing, faces frozen mid-emotion. But the longer you look, the less stable the image becomes. Nothing in this mural is accidental. Every hand forms a directional cue. Every gaze creates a line of tension. Every grouping of figures pulses with mathematical rhythm. Leonardo did not merely paint a meal, he orchestrated a psychological symphony, and he did so using a method that defied convention. Instead of traditional fresco, painting into wet plaster, he chose to experiment on a dry wall with oil and tempera. It was risky. It allowed greater precision, subtle blending, and continuous revision, but it also guaranteed deterioration. Within decades, the mural began to decay. Why would a genius knowingly use a fragile technique on a sacred commission? Some argue it was artistic obsession. Others suspect something deeper, because working on dry plaster gave him time to adjust expressions, refine gestures, conceal subtle alignments, time to construct something layered. Modern restoration efforts have revealed underlying sketches, ghostly drafts beneath the visible surface. Infrared reflectography and X-ray scans show corrections, altered hand positions, modified facial angles. It is as if there are two versions of the painting, the visible one and the one beneath. And here is where the mystery intensifies. Leonardo's notebooks were filled with mirrored writing, encoded diagrams, anatomical studies centuries ahead of their time. He was a master of duality, public devotion, private inquiry, scientist and mystic, engineer and philosopher. He understood optics, perspective, geometry. He understood how the human eye moves. When you observe The Last Supper carefully, your gaze does not wander randomly. It travels. Christ forms a central triangle. The apostles are grouped in threes. Invisible diagonals connect gestures across the table. It is choreographed, mathematical, deliberate. Some scholars suggest the proportions echo harmonic ratios, subtle nods to the golden mean. Others believe the spatial arrangement resembles constellations or geometric codes. But the most controversial theory emerged not from geometry, it emerged from a face. The figure seated to Christ's right, traditionally identified as John, appears youthful, almost feminine, soft features, no beard, a tilted posture leaning inward. Centuries after Leonardo, speculation began to grow. What if that figure was not John at all? What if it was Mary Magdalene? The idea was simple and explosive. It suggested hidden narratives, suppressed roles, alternative interpretations of sacred history. The theory gained enormous traction in modern literature, especially after the global success of the Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. Millions began re-examining the mural, searching for clues. But historians responded firmly. Infrared analysis supports the identification as John. Renaissance depictions frequently portrayed young male disciples with delicate features. Copies made by Leonardo's students preserve the same figure with clear masculine attributes. From a technical standpoint, The academic case seemed closed, and yet the fascination refused to die. Why? Because humans are pattern-seeking beings. Neuroscience shows that our brains are wired to detect meaning even in ambiguity. We find faces in clouds, shapes in randomness, narratives in silence. And Leonardo understood this. He painted ambiguity into permanence, but now we enter new territory. For centuries, debates were philosophical. Now they are computational. Recently, researchers trained artificial intelligence models on ultra-high-resolution images of the mural, incorporating infrared scans, X-ray imaging, and restoration archives. The goal was simple: isolate Leonardo's original brushwork from later interventions. But something unexpected emerged. The algorithms detected a structural alignment invisible to the naked eye, an axis connecting three subtle points: a slight displacement in the jawline of the disciple beside Christ, a hand gesture near Judas, a curved architectural trace in the wall behind Jesus. Individually, these could be artistic adjustments. Aligned together, they formed a pathway, a visual route guiding the eye from disciple to Christ, to betrayer, not dramatically, subtly. The pattern repeated in early copies created by Leonardo's own students, suggesting intentional replication. Was this merely compositional brilliance or encoded commentary? Some historians interpret it as a metaphor. Betrayal arises from within intimacy. Divinity and imperfection coexist in proximity. Others propose something more radical. The AI analysis suggests overlapping facial structures in the controversial figure beside Christ, traces of both masculine and feminine characteristics layered beneath final paint adjustments. Not a replacement, a fusion, an archetype blending the beloved disciple and the silenced feminine. Is this proof of conspiracy? No, but it is evidence of intentional ambiguity, and ambiguity was Leonardo's language. Science does not confirm mystical claims, but it confirms design, deliberate layering, mathematical precision, intentional visual pathways. And that raises a deeper question. Was Leonardo hiding a forbidden truth, or was he teaching us how perception itself works? Because here is the uncomfortable realization: the mural may not contain a single hidden message. It may contain a mirror reflecting our need for hidden meaning. Psychology teaches us that ambiguity amplifies engagement. When something is unresolved, the brain continues processing it. Tension sustains attention. Leonardo constructed unresolved tension into the architecture of the painting. He froze the moment of accusation, not the meal before, not the resolution after, a suspended fracture, emotion without closure. 5 centuries later, we are still completing it in our minds. Perhaps the real code is not geometric, it is psychological. He embedded a question so perfectly balanced between faith and doubt that humanity cannot stop asking it. And now technology has entered the conversation. Artificial intelligence does not believe. It detects pattern. It recognizes structure beyond human perception. And what it confirms is this: nothing in the Last Supper is casual. Every gesture is intentional. Every grouping mathematically coherent. Every ambiguity deliberate. Leonardo did not accidentally create mystery. He engineered it. But here is the final layer. Why are we so desperate to find something hidden? Why? Does the possibility of a concealed message excite us more than the visible beauty? Perhaps because we sense that reality itself contains layers. Physics tells us matter is mostly empty space. Perception is filtered. Memory is reconstructive. Identity is fluid. What we see is rarely the full story. The mural becomes symbolic of existence itself, surface and depth, faith and skepticism, science and mystery. Leonardo may have understood something profound. The most powerful truths are not declared. They are discovered, not forced, invited. And maybe the reason this painting continues to captivate is not because of what it hides, but because of what it awakens. The tension between certainty and curiosity, between tradition and inquiry, between the visible and the invisible. Standing before the Last Supper, you are not just observing history, You are participating in a dialogue across centuries, a silent exchange between artist and observer, between structure and interpretation, between what is shown and what you are willing to see. So perhaps the ultimate question is not, what did Leonardo hide? But, what are we ready to perceive? Because sometimes the code is not in the pigment. It is in the consciousness of the one who looks. If this journey shifted something within you, not just intellectually, but perceptually, stay with it. Question gently. Observe closely. Let ambiguity sharpen awareness, rather than threaten belief. And if you feel called to continue exploring the intersection of art, science, and hidden architecture, engage. Subscribe. Share your interpretation below, not because an algorithm demands it, but because dialogue keeps mystery alive. And as long as we continue asking, the painting continues speaking.